In today's story, a sales representative discovers that a coworker has been submitting expense reports for trips he never took. Before we begin, settle in and enjoy tonight's story. My coworker filed expense reports for trips I took alone. The first duplicate charge was for a hotel room in Ohio where I had spent the night alone. Finance called me on a Wednesday morning and asked whether I had shared the room with another employee. I laughed because I thought they were joking. The hotel had been outside Columbus, beside a highway and a closed furniture outlet. I had checked in after 9, eaten crackers from the vending machine, and spent most of the night preparing for a hospital presentation. No one from my company had been with me. The finance analyst asked whether I was sure. Then she emailed me 2 expense reports. One was mine. The other belonged to my coworker, Eric. We had both claimed the same hotel, the same date, the same room rate, and nearly identical mileage. The only difference was that Eric had added a dinner with a physician I had met the following morning. I was a pharmaceutical sales representative for a mid-sized medical company called Alder Ridge Therapeutics. My territory covered parts of Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. Eric handled Western Ohio and occasionally covered accounts near the edge of my region. We worked independently most of the time. Sales representatives rarely traveled together unless there was a conference or a new product launch. I told finance Eric had not been on the trip. The analyst said she would review it and get back to me. An hour later, Eric called. He did not ask how I was or mention the duplicate report. He said finance contacted you, didn't they? I asked why he had claimed my hotel. He sighed as though I had created the problem. He said it was an administrative mistake. He had copied an older report as a template and forgotten to update the lodging details. I asked about the mileage. He said the same thing. I asked about the dinner with my physician. He paused. Then he said the physician had also attended one of his events several weeks earlier, and he must have selected the wrong date. 3 separate mistakes had produced a report that matched my trip almost exactly. Eric told me to reply to finance and say we had already resolved it. I said I would tell them what happened. He said, "That's what I mean." It was not what he meant. That afternoon, finance asked for my hotel receipt, client notes, mileage log, and company card statement. I sent everything. Then they asked why the dinner on Eric's report had been charged to my corporate card. I opened the statement again. The hotel charge was mine. The gas purchases were mine. But there was also a restaurant charge for $184 that I did not recognize. The restaurant was in Dayton. On the date of the charge, I had been in Columbus. I assumed my card number had been stolen. Finance told me the transaction had been made using the physical card's chip. My card had been in my wallet. At least, I believed it had. I checked the last 4 digits on the statement against the card in my hand. They matched, then finance sent me the itemized receipt. 4 meals, 2 cocktails, 1 bottle of wine. The receipt had been signed with my last name. The signature did not look like mine. Below it, someone had written Eric's employee number. I called him again. He denied using my card. When I told him about the receipt, he changed his explanation. He said we might have accidentally exchanged cards at a regional meeting. The last regional meeting had been 3 months earlier. My card had worked normally since then. He said perhaps the restaurant had retained an old authorization. I told him restaurants did not retain physical chip authorizations for 3 months and then create signed receipts with his employee number. He became quiet. Finally, he told me not to involve compliance before he had a chance to correct the report. I had not mentioned compliance. That was when I knew the duplicate hotel was not an isolated mistake. I forwarded the entire conversation to finance and copied my manager, Denise. Within 30 minutes, Denise scheduled a call. She sounded irritated rather than concerned. She said duplicate expenses happened more often than employees realized. People reused templates, attached the wrong receipts, or forgot which card they had used. I asked whether it was common for someone to claim a trip they had not taken. She said we should not assume intent. Then she asked whether Eric had ever borrowed my company card. I said no. She asked whether I had ever left it unattended during a team meeting. I told her I did not remember. She said that was different from no. By the end of the call, the investigation had shifted away from why Eric claimed my trip and toward whether I had failed to secure my card. Before we disconnected, Denise instructed me not to discuss the issue with other employees. 10 minutes later, Eric messaged me, "You made this much bigger than it needed to be." I asked how he knew about my call with Denise. He did not answer. Finance showed me 2 expense reports for the same hotel room on the same night. One was mine. The other belonged to my coworker, Eric, who had not been on the trip. He had also claimed my mileage and a dinner with one of my clients. Then finance asked why that dinner had been charged to my company card. The next morning, I reviewed every expense report I had submitted during the previous year. Our sales system allowed representatives to see their own reports, but not anyone else's. I could not access Eric's records directly. I could, however, compare my travel dates with the questions finance had recently asked. 2 months earlier, they had requested clarification about a hotel in Indianapolis. At the time, I thought it was a routine audit. 3 weeks before that, they had asked whether a client lunch included another employee. There had been no other employee. I searched my email for Eric's name and the cities I had visited. A pattern appeared. After several of my trips, Eric emailed me asking casual questions. How was the hotel? Which physicians attended? Was the restaurant near the hospital worth using? Did the parking garage accept company cards? I had answered because the questions seemed normal between sales representatives. He had been collecting details. I sent the messages to finance. They replied that the matter had been escalated to corporate compliance. That afternoon, my company card access was suspended. Eric's was not. I learned that because he called another representative in our region, Tasha, and complained that I had caused delays in his reimbursements. Tasha called me afterward. She said Eric had been unusually interested in my travel schedule for months. He often asked where I would be and which clients I planned to visit. She assumed he wanted to avoid overlapping territory. Then she mentioned something else. Eric had claimed to meet several of my clients before. I asked which ones. She named 3 physicians. I had introduced Eric to only one of them. The other 2 worked at facilities outside his assigned territory. I checked our customer management system. Representatives logged meetings, samples, educational events, and follow-up notes. Eric had entered contact records for all 3 physicians. The notes were vague, discussed treatment pathways, reviewed new prescribing information, scheduled follow-up. They looked like generic entries written by someone who knew the product but had not attended the meeting. One entry matched a day I knew the physician had been unavailable because her office was closed for renovations. I took screenshots. Before I could send them, my access to the customer system disappeared. The screen displayed a message saying my account had been temporarily disabled during a data security review. Denise called moments later. She told me compliance had identified irregular activity connected to my credentials. I asked what kind of activity. She said customer records had been viewed from multiple locations within short periods. I reminded her that I traveled constantly. She said the locations were too far apart to be explained by travel. Someone had accessed my account from Cincinnati while I was working in Louisville. I asked whether Eric's location matched the Cincinnati access. She said she could not disclose information about another employee. Then she asked whether I had shared my password. I had not. She asked whether I stored it in my browser. I said yes, on my company laptop. She asked whether anyone else had handled the laptop. During regional meetings, all of us sometimes left our computers in conference rooms during lunch. That answer went into her notes. I could hear her typing. By then, I understood the structure of the problem. Eric had not merely copied my expenses. He had used enough of my information to make the duplicate claims look plausible, and he had created activity under my credentials that made me appear careless. Every piece of evidence against him created a corresponding question about my security practices. I contacted our compliance investigator directly. His name was Marcus Bell. He agreed to speak with me but warned that the investigation was confidential. I sent him the emails, the screenshots, and the restaurant receipt. He asked why I had not noticed the restaurant charge when I reconciled my card. I checked the statement dates. The charge had appeared during a week when I submitted 12 separate expenses from a 5-day conference. I had attached the hotel folio and marked the card total as reviewed. I had missed the restaurant charge. Marcus said that was a policy violation. Employees were required to verify every transaction. I told him I understood, but missing the charge did not explain who had made it. He agreed. Then he asked whether Eric had access to my physical card. I remembered a sales meeting in Cincinnati about 6 weeks earlier. We had all checked out of the hotel at the same time. The front desk placed several company cards and receipts on the counter while correcting billing errors. Eric had picked up a card and joked that the company should print our photographs on them. I checked mine before leaving, but only by looking at the name. It was possible he had briefly held it. It was not possible that he had kept it. I had used it later that day, unless he had copied the information and created a duplicate card. Marcus said modern chip cards were difficult to clone, though not impossible. More likely, someone had added my card to a mobile wallet or stored it through a merchant account. The restaurant receipt showed a chip transaction, but merchant systems sometimes coded mobile wallet payments the same way. He requested the restaurant's payment records. 2 days later, Denise canceled my upcoming client meetings and reassigned them to Eric. When I objected, she said the region still needed coverage while my access was restricted. I asked why Eric was trusted to cover my accounts while his reports were under investigation. She said he had not been suspended. Neither had I, officially. But he had my clients, my territory information, and an opportunity to explain my absence however he wanted. I called Tasha again. She told me Eric had recently been talking about a job with another pharmaceutical company called Belmont Clinical. Belmont sold a competing treatment. Representatives changed companies frequently, but there were strict rules against sharing client lists, pricing strategies, or internal sales data. Tasha said Eric had met a Belmont regional director at a conference and later claimed they were discussing an open position. I searched my old calendar. The unexplained Dayton dinner had occurred on the same night Belmont held a recruiting event at a hotel nearby. The restaurant was less than half a mile away. Eric had not used my card to buy dinner with a physician. He may have used it to meet a competitor. That gave him 2 reasons to falsify the expense report. He could make the dinner look like legitimate client entertainment, and he could attach it to my travel activity if anyone investigated the location. I told Marcus. He asked how I knew about the Belmont meeting. I said another employee had mentioned it. He warned me again not to conduct my own investigation. I said the company had given my accounts to the person using my identity. He told me to let compliance work. The problem was that Eric was still working too. 3 days later, one of my clients emailed me. She asked why I had sent updated pricing documents from a personal address. I had not. She forwarded the message. The sender name was mine, but the email address differed by 1 letter. The message attached a spreadsheet containing discount projections for the next quarter. Those figures were confidential. Some were real, others were outdated. The document metadata listed Eric as the last editor. One of my clients received confidential pricing documents from an email address that looked like mine, but differed by 1 letter. The message used my name, my title, and details from our previous meeting. The attached spreadsheet contained real internal projections. When I checked the file properties, Eric was listed as the last person who edited it. I sent the email to Marcus and Denise. This time, Eric's system access was suspended. He called me from his personal phone. He said the spreadsheet did not prove anything. He had worked on the pricing file as part of a team and could not control what appeared in the metadata. I asked why the fake email used my name. He said someone was trying to turn us against each other. Then he offered an explanation I had not expected. He claimed Denise was responsible. According to Eric, she had been pressuring representatives to share accounts and inflate activity before the end of the quarter. She told him to enter meetings under whichever territory produced the strongest results. He said the duplicate expenses began as a way to move costs between regions because his budget was exhausted. I asked whether Denise told him to use my card. He said no. I asked whether she told him to impersonate me. He said he had never impersonated me. Then he said, "You don't know how much of this she already approved." It was the first time he sounded afraid. I ended the call and sent Marcus a summary. He asked me not to speak with Eric again. The next day, Denise was placed on administrative leave. That changed my understanding of the case. I had assumed Denise was protecting Eric because she trusted him or wanted to avoid scandal. Compliance found that she had approved several duplicate expense reports after finance flagged them. She also instructed Eric to cover clients outside his territory and allowed him to access shared sales folders containing my account plans. Her conduct gave Eric access and credibility, but it did not explain the restaurant charge, the fake email, or the repeated use of my travel details. Marcus interviewed me for nearly 4 hours. He showed me a series of expense reports. There were 9 duplicates connected to my trips. Eric had claimed 3 hotels, 4 mileage routes, 2 meals, and 1 airport parking charge. Some reports copied mine exactly, others changed dates or amounts slightly. The total was less than $8,000. That was enough to be fraud, but not enough to explain the risk he had taken. Marcus agreed. The larger issue was what Eric had done during those trips. Compliance had obtained his phone location records from the company device. On several dates when he claimed to be visiting physicians, he had been near Belmont offices or meeting locations. Eric was interviewing for a job. That alone was not prohibited. What mattered was that he appeared to be sharing information. Belmont had received internal sales projections, territory performance data, and a list of clients expected to participate in an upcoming product trial. The fake email sent in my name was one of several. Some messages went to clients. Others went to addresses associated with Belmont. The duplicate travel reports created a record showing that I had been in the same cities where the information changed hands. The expense fraud was not the central scheme. It was an alibi. Eric was building a history that placed my name beside his meetings, charges, and communications. If Belmont hired him and the information leak was later discovered, the company would see 2 representatives attached to the same activity. One was leaving, the other was me. I asked why he chose my identity rather than someone else's. Marcus showed me an internal disciplinary note from 2 years earlier. I had once received a written warning for emailing a client list to my personal account so I could work from home during a system outage. The list contained no pricing information, and I had deleted it after my manager objected, but the warning remained in my file. Eric knew about it because Denise had discussed it during a regional talent review. He had selected someone with an existing data security violation. My history made his version believable. The first time compliance confronted him with the fake email, Eric claimed I had sent the documents and altered the metadata to blame him. He also produced text messages suggesting we had agreed to share travel costs. The messages came from a number labeled with my name. They were fake. But they included phrases I commonly used. Eric had copied them from our work chats. He had prepared for the investigation before I knew one existed. Marcus said the evidence still favored me, but the company needed to verify every account. Until then, I remained locked out. My clients remained reassigned. My commissions were frozen, and several people in the company knew only that both Eric and I were being investigated for expense and data irregularities. That was the professional damage he had been counting on. Even if he failed to prove I was responsible, he could make the truth complicated enough to survive. Compliance found the breakthrough at the Dayton restaurant. The payment had not been made with a cloned physical card. Eric had photographed my company card during the Cincinnati meeting and added it to a mobile wallet. The restaurant's records showed the mobile device identifier. That same device had been used for 2 other charges. One was a parking garage near a Belmont office. The other was a hotel bar where Belmont executives held a private dinner. The device was Eric's company phone. Marcus also found that Eric had reset my customer system password during a regional meeting by using my unattended laptop and the security questions available in our employee directory. He logged in from his own device and created customer entries under my account. Denise had not authorized that. She had created the environment that made it easier, but Eric had expanded the scheme on his own. The duplicate expenses were not just about stealing reimbursement money. Eric had been meeting with a competing company and sharing confidential sales information. By claiming my hotels, my mileage, and meals charged to my card, he created a travel history that placed my name beside his meetings. If the leak was discovered, the records would point to both of us. The company terminated Eric. Denise was also fired for bypassing controls, approving misleading expense reports, and giving him unauthorized access to territory files. Belmont withdrew its job offer and opened its own investigation. I expected my access to be restored immediately. It was not. Alder Ridge concluded that I had violated company policy in 3 ways. I failed to review my card statement carefully. I stored my customer system password in my browser, and I had left my laptop unattended during meetings. Those failures did not make me responsible for Eric's fraud, but they had made it possible. The company issued me a final written warning. They also kept my commissions frozen while they reviewed whether any clients had received inaccurate information. I was angry enough to resign. I told Marcus that punishing me after proving I had been impersonated would discourage anyone from reporting internal fraud. He said he understood, but compliance findings did not erase policy violations. That was the part no satisfying revenge story includes. You can be the victim of a deliberate scheme and still have made mistakes. I hired an employment attorney. She reviewed the case and told me the warning was probably defensible. The company had documented similar security policies for years. The commission issue was different. My contract said commissions were earned when client orders were completed, not when an internal investigation ended. She sent a demand letter. Alder Ridge released most of the money within 2 weeks. They also offered to transfer me to a smaller territory in Michigan. The regional vice president described it as a fresh start. It was not a fresh start. It was a quiet relocation. My Ohio and Kentucky clients had already been redistributed. Several had been told I was on leave due to a compliance matter. The company would not explain the full situation because Eric's case remained confidential. My reputation inside the company had become collateral damage. They preferred not to repair publicly. I declined the transfer. I stayed long enough to receive the commissions I was owed, then resigned. 3 months later, I accepted a position with a medical device company. The territory was smaller, the base salary was higher, and the company required biometric approval for every corporate card transaction. During my first week, the compliance director gave a presentation about credential security. She warned us never to leave laptops open, never to approve unfamiliar card charges, and never to assume a coworker was harmless because they knew ordinary details about our schedules. I wondered whether my case had made it into an industry training deck. Eric was charged over the unauthorized card use and falsified records. The company pursued him for reimbursement and legal costs. I do not know whether he was ever prosecuted for sharing information with Belmont. Neither company told me the result. Denise contacted me once. She said Eric had manipulated her too. According to her, he claimed he was correcting territory imbalances and helping representatives meet targets. She admitted approving duplicate expenses, but said she never understood the scale of what he was doing. She apologized for questioning me before questioning him. I believed that part. I did not believe she had been completely unaware. Managers often recognize warning signs only after those signs become liabilities. Before that, they call them flexibility, initiative, or teamwork. I never answered her message. The client who received the fake pricing email stayed in contact with me. Months later, she told me Eric had approached her directly before the investigation. He said I was planning to leave Alder Ridge and had authorized him to take over the account. That happened before finance found the first duplicate hotel. He was not merely preparing to blame me if the information leak was discovered. He was preparing to replace me. He had begun claiming my trips because he wanted a record showing that he had already been present in my territory. The reports made it appear that we had worked together, shared clients, and divided responsibilities. Once I left or once I was fired, he could present himself as the obvious person to inherit the accounts. The competitor job was his backup plan. If Alder Ridge promoted him, he would stay. If they investigated him, he would leave with their client information. Either way, I was useful only as a name attached to the records. I still travel for work. I still stay in highway hotels, reconcile mileage, and eat dinners alone between meetings. But I check every card transaction before I go to sleep. I lock my laptop even when I am only walking across a conference room. And whenever a coworker asks where I am staying, which client I am seeing, or whether a restaurant was good, I notice the question. Most of the time, it means nothing. That was what made Eric's questions effective. Every detail he used against me was something ordinary people share without thinking. A hotel, a route. A meeting time, a client's name. None of it looked dangerous until someone assembled it into a version of my life that I had never lived.
You've been listening to Low Light Stories, original fiction for late-night listening. New stories are added regularly, so subscribe if you'd like to hear the next one. Thanks for listening.